Her mother told her, "You're a 10, you don't need to settle for his 6." So I walked out without a word. 2 years later, her perfect 10 took everything they had, and she came back begging me to save her. When I first met Clara, she was the kind of person who made a room feel smaller the moment she walked in, like gravity tilted toward her. We met through mutual friends at a gallery opening 3.5 years ago. She was bold, quick with a joke, and had that kind of effortless confidence that made you think she must have her life together. I didn't. I'm a mechanical engineer, not exactly the flashiest profession. I'm steady, quiet, practical. The kind of guy who remembers to check the oil twice before a road trip. She said she liked that about me. For the first year, things were perfect in that Instagram normal way. Brunches, small trips, movie nights, inside jokes. But I noticed something small, early on. When we were alone, she was warm, funny, honest. But around her parents? She changed. She became this performative, polished version of herself, like she was auditioning for a part. Her parents lived in a sprawling house outside the city. Her dad was polite, a little aloof. Her mom, though, Vivian, was something else. She smiled too wide, complimented too hard, and every sentence came with a hidden blade. The first time I met them, Vivian hugged Clara tight, then turned to me and said, "Oh, you're the boyfriend." Clara said, "You're the quiet one." That's good. Quiet men are usually grateful. Everyone laughed. I smiled. I remember thinking, she probably didn't mean it like that. But over time, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Whenever we visited, Vivian would say something like, "You're lucky Clara picked you. She's always had excellent taste." Or, Clara was accepted to an MBA program before she decided to settle down. Such a shame. Clara would roll her eyes, tell me not to take it seriously, and later apologize in private. But she never stopped her. The breaking point came 2 years later, at her father's 60th birthday party. It was one of those upscale events where everyone's wearing linen and pretending they don't care about being photographed. I spent most of the night standing near the bar, trying not to look like the only person without a family business or a golf handicap. Clara looked stunning. Of course, gold dress, hair perfect. She was glowing. I caught her mother watching her from across the room with this proud, possessive smile. Then came the moment. Vivian walked up to Clara, rested a hand on her shoulder, and said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Honey, you're a 10. You don't need to settle for his 6." The group laughed. Someone tried to change the subject. Clara just stood there, eyes darting between us, frozen. And I realized right then, she wasn't shocked. She was waiting to see how I'd react. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw the drink in my hand or make a scene. I just looked at Vivian, smiled, and said, "You're right. She shouldn't settle." Then I turned to Clara, really looked at her, and said quietly, "And neither should I." I left my drink on the counter, walked out the door, and never looked back. That night, I packed my things from our apartment. I didn't argue, didn't explain, just took what was mine, left the keys on the counter, and drove until the city lights disappeared. The silence felt clean. For almost 2 years, I didn't hear from her. Not once. I moved on, switched jobs, started hiking again, even met new people, though I never let anyone get that close. Then last month, out of nowhere, I got an email. Subject, "Please. Body. I know I don't deserve to ask, but I need your help. Everything's falling apart." It was from Clara, and attached were screenshots, bank transfers, text messages, and one photo of a man I'd never seen before. That was the moment I knew. Whatever had happened, it was bad. The photo she sent me was of a man I vaguely recognized. Elliot, I think his name was. I'd seen him once before on one of Clara's old co-workers' Instagram stories. Tall, gym-built, perfect teeth, that influencer kind of handsome. The kind of guy Vivian probably dreamed of introducing at a dinner party. I scrolled through the rest of the email. Screenshots of bank transactions, messages from Clara's mom, even a picture of a police report number. The story was chaotic. Apparently, after we broke up, Clara started dating Elliot a few months later. He was charming, rich, or at least he looked rich, drove a Mercedes, wore designer everything, and talked about private equity deals that never seemed to actually exist. Vivian adored him, which wasn't surprising. Clara's message said he helped her parents with some investment opportunities. Translation: he convinced them to pour money into whatever crypto fraud or shell company nonsense he was running. Now the accounts were frozen. Her father was being questioned by the bank. Vivian was apparently in denial, insisting Elliot would never. The last line of her message just said, "I don't know who else to call. Please." I stared at my screen for a long time before replying. Then I typed back one sentence. "You called me when you needed saving, not when you wanted to apologize." She didn't answer that night. 2 days later, I got another email. This time with no message, just attachments, voice memos, screenshots of her arguing with Elliot, a copy of a restraining order request. One of the voice notes was chilling. Her voice trembled as she said, "He knows everything about me, my accounts, my passwords. He told me if I talk to anyone, he'll tell the police I was part of it." I didn't sleep much after hearing that. I don't know what exactly pushed me to do it, but the next morning I called a lawyer I knew from work, someone who'd handled a few small business fraud cases. I explained the situation, carefully leaving out the emotional parts. He said, "She's not your problem, but if what you're saying is accurate, the guy's running a multi-party scam. I'll make a few calls." Within days, he confirmed what I already suspected. Elliot wasn't even using his real name. His business had no registered company, and the Mercedes leased under a fake identity. There were reports in 2 other states about similar frauds. I sent all that to Clara. Her reply came an hour later. "You have no idea how much I've missed you. I'm so sorry for everything. You were always the good one." I didn't answer, because even through the apology, I could see it, the same pattern. She was trying to rewrite the story now that she was losing. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment. It was raining. She looked like a ghost of the woman I used to know, pale, exhausted, makeup smeared. She stood there on my porch, soaking wet, saying she had nowhere else to go. Part of me wanted to shut the door. Another part remembered all those nights we used to sit on the couch talking about how people change or don't. So I let her in. She told me everything. How Elliot had isolated her from everyone. How he controlled the money. How her parents believed him more than her at first. Vivian even called her jealous. It was only when Elliot drained one of her father's accounts that reality hit. By then, he was gone. The police were already involved by that point. My lawyer connected her with an investigator he trusted, and they started building a case. I wasn't part of it officially, just a witness, I guess. But she stayed at my place for 3 nights while she got her bearings. Those 3 nights were strange. There were moments where it almost felt like before, the quiet conversations, the way she'd laugh softly in the dark. But there was always something between us now, invisible but heavy. One night, she said quietly, "I thought I was upgrading, you know. My mom always said I could do better. Turns out better was just louder." I didn't answer, because honestly, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. When the police finally tracked Elliot down, or whatever his real name was, it made the news. A full-blown investigation into a multi-state fraud ring, dozens of victims. Vivian and her husband were listed as primary complainants. Vivian even tried to reach out to me. Can you believe that? She sent a long message about how she always respected me and how we all make mistakes. I didn't reply. Clara left a few days later to stay with a cousin. Before she left, she stood by the door for a long time and said, "I wish I'd seen you the way you saw me." I told her, "You saw me fine. You just didn't like what you saw." She nodded, and that was it. It's been 6 months now. I heard through a mutual friend that her parents are selling their house to cover the losses. Clara moved out of state. She apparently volunteers at some community center now, helping victims of financial abuse. I guess irony has a long memory. Sometimes I think about that night, Vivian's words echoing in that glittering room. "You're a 10, you don't need to settle for his 6." I used to replay that sentence like a wound. Now it just sounds hollow. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that 10s and SIXS mean nothing when it comes to decency. Some people shine in pictures. Others quietly hold the light. Update that I thought that would be the end of it. Her gone, me moving on, the whole mess fading like a bad dream. But 6 months later, the story went public. Not gossip around the neighborhood, public, headline public. A national outlet ran an article titled, "Local Couple Defrauded by Fake Investor. Luxury Scam Unravels in Multi-State Scheme." The names were partially redacted at first, but everyone in our city could connect the dots. The local couple was Clara's parents. The fake investor was Elliot or Ethan Cole, as it turned out. Vivian's face, the same one that used to sneer politely over champagne, was now splashed across the local paper next to phrases like failed due diligence and significant financial losses. The fall from grace was brutal. Her parents lost their house, the one with the imported marble countertops and the garden that looked like a magazine spread. Her father resigned from the board of his company. Vivian started selling off jewelry for legal expenses, which the internet quickly found out was code for to stay afloat. And then, of course, came the part one didn't expect. I was at work one afternoon when I got a message from an unknown number. "It's Clara. Please, don't delete this." I stared at the screen for a while before opening it. They're going to run another article. They're twisting things, making it sound like I was part of the scam. I didn't know, I swear. The reporter asked if you'd be willing to talk. To confirm, I reached out to you when I realized what he was doing. I don't have anyone else left who'll speak for me. For the first time in a long while, I hesitated. I didn't know her anything, but I knew what it felt like to have people assume the worst while you're trying to breathe through the rubble. So I said yes. I met the journalist 2 days later, a quiet woman with a notebook and a recorder. We sat in a cafe downtown, and I told her the truth. That Clara had come to me terrified, that she'd cooperated with the investigation, that she'd tried to undo the damage. No embellishment, no bitterness, just the truth. She thanked me, said it would help. When the article came out, the narrative shifted slightly, from spoiled daughter complicit in parents' fraud to victim trapped in financial manipulation. Still not flattering, but it was fairer. Clara texted once more afterward. "You didn't have to do that. Thank you." "I know," I wrote back, "but I wanted to." That was the last time we spoke. A few weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved again, this time for good. Apparently, she works quietly under a different name now, living in a rented apartment somewhere near the coast. No more designer clothes, no more dinner parties, no more pretending. Vivian, on the other hand, tried to sue the bank, the investigators, even the journalist. None of it stuck. Her reputation was shredded. Someone said she was seen at a discount store one morning, trying to haggle over groceries. A strange image for a woman who used to say, "I don't look at price tags. It's vulgar." Sometimes I think about all of it, not with satisfaction, just perspective. When I walked out of that birthday party, I wasn't trying to win. I just wanted peace. But peace doesn't come free. It comes in installments. Little payments you make every time you choose silence over revenge, self-respect over validation. Clara's story ended where mine began, realizing that pride is the most expensive illusion there is. And somewhere in that realization, I stopped seeing myself as the man who wasn't enough. Because maybe I was never supposed to be someone's 10 or 6. Maybe I was just supposed to be whole. Final update that it's been almost 3 years since the article came out. Long enough for everything to settle into silence. The kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore, just fills the background like white noise. I've changed cities. Smaller place, near the mountains. My work's the same. Engineering projects, long hours, coffee that always tastes a bit burnt no matter the brand. But there's peace in it. Predictability. Some weekends, I drive out to the lake and sit on the hood of my car, just watching the water move. I used to think stillness was loneliness. Now I know it's something else. Stability, maybe. Or acceptance. I hadn't thought about Clara in months. Not really. Until last week. The email subject line read, "I don't expect a reply." It was from her. No attachments this time. Just words. "I wanted you to know I'm doing better. I rent a small place now, work part-time with a local foundation. We help women who've been financially manipulated by partners. I didn't start out doing it for noble reasons. It was court-ordered community service. But somewhere along the way, I started listening to their stories and realizing I was one of them. I've stopped blaming my mother. That was hard. She's in assisted living now. Dad visits when he can. I think losing everything forced her to meet herself for the first time. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to thank you. You were the only one who didn't throw gasoline on the fire. You just stepped back and let it burn." At the end, she wrote, "You always told me decency is a quiet kind of strength. I didn't understand that before. I do now. I read it twice. Then again the next morning. And for the first time since all of it happened, I didn't feel that tightness in my chest, the mix of anger and loss that used to live there. Just a kind of distant empathy, the way you feel when you watch someone walking on a road you've already traveled." I didn't reply, not because I was bitter, but because there was nothing left to say. She's building her version of peace. I'm living mine. A few nights ago, I stopped by a bar near my apartment. Quiet place, mostly locals. The bartender was playing an old song I hadn't heard in years, one Clara used to hum while cooking. And for a moment, I remembered her the way she was before everything. Barefoot in the kitchen, hair messy, laughing at something dumb I said. Not the woman who betrayed me. Not the one who begged me for help. Just a person I once loved. It's strange how time rewrites the story. Pain dulls, pride fades, and what's left are fragments, some sharp, some soft. If you told me back then that I'd ever wish her well, I'd have laughed. But now I honestly do. Because survival isn't about proving who was right. It's about walking away without carrying the wreckage. And maybe that's the real ending. Not revenge, not regret, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that I left when I needed to, and never once looked back wishing I hadn't.